Her name echoed through the studio speakers. Mrs. Elena Morales. The applause hit instantly, loud, polished, professional. Cameras swung, lights flared. The host smiled wide. But Elena didn't stand. She sat frozen in her chair, hands trembling, heart pounding so hard she thought the microphone might catch it. Because the name they'd just called wasn't supposed to be here. And because somewhere in the audience, a man with tear-filled eyes had already risen to his feet, clapping harder than anyone else. A man she hadn't seen in 20 years. A man who once owed his life to a $5 lunch. And no one watching at home had any idea why this moment mattered. Not yet. 20 years earlier, Elena Morales stood in the school cafeteria staring at her wallet. It was empty. Not metaphorically, literally empty. No cash, no coins, just an old grocery receipt and a photo of her late mother tucked inside for luck. The bell rang and students poured in, laughter bouncing off the walls. Elena tightened her grip on the tray she was holding, today's lunch menu printed neatly on laminated paper. She hated cafeteria duty, not because of the kids, because of what it showed her. Who had enough, and who didn't. That was when she noticed him. Lucas Reed sat alone at the far end of the room, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the table. No tray, no lunch, just a small carton of milk he hadn't opened. She'd seen that look before. It was the look of someone trying not to be seen. Elena glanced at the lunch monitor clipboard. Unpaid balance. Again. She exhaled slowly. This wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. But today felt different. Because today, Lucas hadn't even stood in line. And that scared her. Elena waited until the room settled, then walked over casually. "Hey, Lucas," she said softly. "Why aren't you eating?" Lucas didn't look up. "Not hungry," he muttered. She pulled out the chair across from him and sat. "You've said that 3 days in a row," she said gently. Silence. Then, barely audible, "I don't have money." There it was. Elena nodded as if he'd just told her the weather. "Okay," she said. "Let's fix that." She stood, walked to the counter and ordered a standard lunch. The cashier hesitated. "Mrs. Morales, his account—" "I know," Elena said quietly. "Put it on mine." The cashier looked uncomfortable. "Your balance." "I know," Elena repeated. She paid in cash. $5. Her grocery money for the week. She carried the tray back and set it down in front of Lucas. His eyes widened. "You don't have to," he said quickly. "I'm fine." Elena leaned closer. "Listen to me," she whispered. "You're not a burden. You're a student. And today, you eat." Lucas stared at the food like it might disappear. Then his eyes filled. He didn't cry, but he nodded. That was the moment something changed, though neither of them knew how far that change would go. The kindness didn't fix everything. Lucas still wore the same worn hoodie every day, still avoided eye contact, still rushed out of class the second the bell rang. And Elena went home that night and ate crackers for dinner. She told herself it was fine. She told herself she'd figure it out. But by the end of the month, her electricity bill sat on the counter unpaid, mocking her. She considered stopping. Just once. But then she'd see Lucas eating, really eating, and the thought disappeared. Weeks turned into months. Elena quietly paid for lunches when she could. Sometimes she skipped meals, sometimes she borrowed, sometimes she pretended she wasn't hungry. Lucas never asked, but he always waited for her eyes before taking the first bite, as if he needed permission to exist. And that broke her heart every time. One afternoon, Lucas stayed after class. Everyone else left. He stood by her desk, shifting nervously. "Mrs. Morales?" "Yes." "Why do you help me?" The question hit harder than she expected. She paused, then said the truth. "Because someone once helped me when I was invisible." Lucas swallowed. "I'll pay you back." She smiled. "No, you won't." He frowned. "You'll pay it forward, when you can." Lucas nodded slowly, like he was memorizing the words. That was the day he started staying late to clean the classroom without being asked. That was the day he started raising his hand. That was the day he believed he belonged somewhere. But life didn't get easier. By the end of the school year, Elena's landlord raised the rent. She picked up tutoring shifts, then weekend work, then night grading. Exhaustion clung to her bones. One evening, she collapsed onto her couch, shoes still on, staring at the ceiling. She wondered if kindness was a luxury people like her couldn't afford. The next week, Lucas transferred schools. No warning, no goodbye, just an empty seat. Elena asked the office. They shrugged. Family moved. She sat at her desk that afternoon, staring at the lunchroom receipt tucked into her wallet. $5. She'd never known how much it mattered, until it was gone. Years passed. Elena kept teaching. Students came and went. Names blurred, faces changed. She never married, never left the district. She lived modestly, quietly, and she never stopped helping when she could. But life has a way of narrowing your world. By her early 50s, Elena's voice grew tired, her hands ached, her paycheck barely stretched. One night, she turned on the TV after a long day. A live charity broadcast filled the screen. Scholarships, mentorships, education reform. She watched absently, until the host smiled wide. "And tonight, we honor the people who changed our lives before we knew who we'd become." Elena reached for the remote, then froze. A man stepped onto the stage, tall, confident, calm. 20 years ago, I was a kid who skipped lunch because I didn't want anyone to know I was poor. Elena's breath caught. I thought hunger was normal, that being invisible was safer. Her hand trembled. Then one day, a teacher paid for my lunch. The room went quiet. She didn't have much, I know that now, but she gave me what she could, and more importantly, she saw me. Tears streamed down Elena's face. She told me to pay it forward. The host smiled. "And you did." The man nodded. "Everything I've built started with that moment." He turned toward the audience. "And tonight, I want to repay her kindness." The screen flashed a name. Elena Morales. Her phone rang. Now, under studio lights, Elena stood slowly. Applause thundered. Lucas Reed, CEO, philanthropist, speaker, walked towards her. Their eyes met. Recognition hit instantly. He hugged her and whispered, "I found you." The host explained the scholarship fund, the foundation, the donation in her name. But Elena barely heard it. All she could think about was a cafeteria, a tray, $5. Lucas took the microphone. "She saved me," he said simply. "Not with money, with dignity." The applause turned into a standing ovation. Elena wiped her tears. She finally spoke. "I just didn't want you to be hungry," she said. Lucas smiled. "And because of that," he replied, "thousands won't be." Later that night, Elena returned home. Same apartment, same couch. but the world felt wider, kinder. She placed her old wallet on the table. Inside, the same grocery receipt, the same photo. And now a note Lucas had slipped into her hand. I paid it forward. Your turn to rest. Elena smiled. Kindness had never made her rich, but it had made her unforgettable. And sometimes, that's everything.